You know what I mean? Because a motherfucker to feel like he's slick, you know, and not to go into it all sort of belligerent, you know, outlandish or whatever. I just know that, you know, at points, you know, we get a glimmer of some of that luminous, you know what I mean, that iridescent, and I won't take that for granted, you know. That's not nothing that I could ever plan or expect. So it makes it just that much more special, you know, to be able to share it, even if it's not like an acknowledged or outward sort of connection. You know, I know me, you know, and I know my spirit and my soul and my karma. So that's where I'm compelled to confer, you feel me, and consult. And the nigga sit up and let you not say nothing to him just to be like, oh, whoop-de-wop, like, you know, they want to learn your quirks and all these things and your tics, right? So as to say, okay, when it is that you wouldn't respond when naturally you would, just so as to, you know, certify your stance, at least the first time, as to exactly what it is that you will accept or condone or agree to. Like, you know, cats be feeling like they can get away with shit, like, and that's fine, but at the same time, it took a whole nother turn, it took another drift into, oh well, I'm gonna make sure that I'm justified in the whack ass shit and the bitch ass shit that I'm presenting to niggas, right? If they don't, you know, if I don't affect them, then obviously they feel like, you know, I deserve what I get, basically. When that's a lot of extra thinking. Cats be feeling like they can get away with shit. Like, not everybody, hardly anybody is ready for love. And that's kind of like a twisted sort of like, really like crazy spin. A blessing to the wretched is a curse. Not everybody, hardly anybody is ready for love. And the nigga sit up and let you not say nothing to him. You know, because energies, like I always say, it's beyond just this lifetime. We come from a lineage of predecessors and ancestry, right? And everybody wasn't whack, nigga. Everybody wasn't lying, yeah. Everybody wasn't lying. Faking, yeah. Faking. So we can't, that's never gonna be the best move. It's never gonna be in an overallly effective mode to entertain. That is, of course, the pretentious mode, you know what I mean, the surface mode, the superficial sort of, you know, for oneself mode. Because at the same time, if there's not like an element, a foundation of honorability, of devotion towards togetherness for everybody, for every living human, being that we're all imperfect, right? And God put us here all together for a reason, right? It's like, that's another whole point of what I always be saying. Like, you can always stump with a nigga, you can always go, you know what I'm saying? It can always be up and stuck up for generations, you know what I mean? It's cats on the block who is in the red, no matter what, from numerous sets. It's so many sets in the same sort of setting that at any given moment, you might even not see who's shooting you, cuz. And even then, other than that, nigga, you face to face shooting at niggas, basically. You know what I mean? For the most part, the niggas ain't necessarily dumping on niggas from far, for one thing, right? Because to even be involved with that sort of activity, you gotta have an element of warriorhood, of what is called of honorability, cuz. Right? Because that's smutty. You don't get no respect for no cowardice, cuz. Right? It's like Kenny said again, I'm back to Kenny. That nigga be resurrecting himself, yeah? But yeah, like I said, why you jumping? Why you pulling out if you ain't walking up, you fucking? You know what I mean? You know how it go. Off the what's the name? Ignorant is bliss. Oh no, that's off the joint. That's off the Good Kid, Mad City joint. Why you if you ain't walking up, like, right? If you can't catch a fair one with a nigga, then you don't never revert to no weapons. You know what I mean? The only time you got weapons is when it's on and live like that with your enemy, and it's already been bullets exchanged, right? And even then, if they unarmed, that's always frowned upon, regardless. I mean, these young niggas took it to other levels because, of course, it's always, like I said, it's so many sets in the same setting, always twisted and intermingling. But I mean, aside from that, the whole point of even why I brought that up is basically like, we here together, right? And if it's gonna be funk, it's gonna be funk. So that has to be handled with a structure to where it doesn't bleed into these unhonorable and deplorably non-respectable realms. It's like, what did you even have anything to say for if you're not finna handle it? Because it's not nothing to talk about, okay? First of all, you don't announce nothing you about to do. You don't know who might be listening. Everybody got family. Yeah. Trust and believe that, yeah. And families got families, and friends got families. My nigga, let alone brothers, nigga, within the order. So it's never ending. It's a cycle, but it's not designed to never end. That's why we have. It's not designed to never end. That's why we have those in place. We have the OG heads in place. You know what I mean? Come to add some sort of, sensibility even after the chaos breaks out. That's what happens. But you know what I'm saying? You got those who have basically directed meeting up to make arrangements and decisions. And if whoever else don't have enough respect to honor decision made by those in a more direct position, because they put in more work, they did more time, nigga. You know what I'm saying? They didn't met with other heads, right? They didn't handle other beefs. You feel what I'm talking about? So if it's anybody that's outside of that circle, then they get reprimanded by their own people, and they can end up getting put down. You feel what I'm talking about? So that's why it's like, you got to understand what your motive is, really what your whole sense of involvement is where it's rooted at. You know what I mean? I'm saying, like I told you myself, nigga, it was never a choice for me. It's not that it wasn't never a choice. It's like, nigga, I'm outside at all moments, good. 83rd, my nigga. In West, Florence and Normandy, nigga. Like I told you, I seen Reginald Denny get hit with the brick, nigga, with my own eyes, not on camera, nigga. Nigga, them first shots was on my block, nigga. The first shots of the LA riots, nigga, was outside of my door, cuz. Yeah, we sparked it off, nigga. You understand? I stayed across the street from War on Wheels, nigga. Well, everybody come to thump at. You understand? So I'm letting you know. It's not for no reason. You dig? And where it starts is out of organization, out of mobilizing. You understand? Your format of exchange. Because it comes down to what? It comes down to honor, right? As men on earth, into the next step, the next level, beyond that. But you got to start somewhere to where you can have a sense of togetherness, my nigga. There has to be some sense of togetherness, and it has to be beyond just race. It has to be beyond just class. It has to be a code. You know what I'm saying? This niggas from hoods, it's Mexican niggas from hoods that all type of different races is from. It don't matter. Like, for the most part, it's gonna be pretty collected or concentrated, but that's only because that's the way it already is. But if it was Asian people there and they happen to live in the same area, then he gonna rep the same headline, and ain't nobody gonna question him. you know what I'm saying? You look past all of that. So it's like you gotta be careful, like, you know what I'm saying? You clicking up based on areas when that's only one part of it. You know what I mean? That's why you got the blue and the red, my nigga. You feel me? So that's just a beautiful part. That's a lovely part. You know what I mean? It's called a brotherhood. At the same time, you representing forward motion and movement as far as growth. Whether it be economic, whether it be cultural, whether it be spiritual. You know what I'm saying? Everybody know your face, girl. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no hiding the dirt. The deeper you in, the dirtier you get. That's just the way it goes. So it's like at the same time, what is it, you know what I'm saying? What is it gonna be worth though? You feel me? What, fucking clout, nigga? Nah, man. Yeah, the shit is nuts, man. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta kind of check your balances. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Before you wreck yourself. Like the great Ice Cube says. Because it's like, you know, if you don't have no type of like contribution, then it's only gonna last for so long. You know what I mean? So it's like you gotta look around and see what your people really need. They gonna need that love. They gonna need that care, that understanding and compassion. They gonna need you to stay raw with them. They gonna need you to not pretend or not wish ill upon them or allow them to fuck themselves over just so that when they don't or somebody see that, they can feel a way about what you didn't do that you could have did and all those other things. That's only, you know, you only got time for that because we're not focused on what the next best move is, basically. Right? And not acknowledging the original structure, which have to do with community development. You feel me? You're not finna get away with really bubbling in no type of way without it benefiting everybody who is there to defend you and protect you, what the next best move is. And that's the whole part. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because honestly, anything else is that surface shit. And then you only gonna progress within it superficially. And that's not an energy you wanna bring back to where, you know what I'm saying, you feel me, you was cultivated at anyway, because that's just gonna cause more resentment, you know, cause more animosity and anxiety. You feel what I'm talking about? So it's spiritual and mental. It's physical, because at the same time, it's like you got to be active. And that's the whole part. That's the whole definition of what they mean when they say active. It gets wild because cats will be everywhere and doing all type of crazy, wild ass shit because it's really no restrictions. I wouldn't say limits, but it's not really no restrictions outside, of course, of the structured activity. But that in itself opens up, you know what I'm saying? It actually activates and initiates exposures as well as experiences, right? And as well as extensions. That's just the way it goes when it comes to that heart, right? When it comes to that just lawless adrenaline, right? That just keeps going. It's like an avalanche, bro. And like I said, I done seen it get the rawest possible, girl, where it's just, you feel me? Carnage, bro. Wildness. It's not even because niggas is animalistic. It's just that we are physical beings, and that spirit can move through that in a way to where it's like it's awakening. It's appalling. Yes. Right? Into the next levels, man. You dig? But it always kind of gets snubbed out one way or the next. That's why we got the other homies. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we activate as well as operate in the name of the homies. In the name of the homies. And don't get me wrong, I'm not speaking on it as if it's all a video or it's all positive at all. It's dark, seated chambers and areas, absolutely. But that goes for all of America. That goes for all of communities and village settings. Not all, but generally America. But that goes for all of America. Don't get me wrong. I'm not glorifying gang violence or nothing. Affiliation is not always, and involvement is not always gotta be violent. However, it kind of gotta be violent, but not all violence is destructive either. Violence actually, in another part of what it is that I'm saying, even in the bad, can be constructive, cause especially in a corrupted as well as twistedly corrupting system. Like, you gotta understand that I'm saying a lot of what it is that I'm saying. So I'll try not to lose myself in the point that I'm making or the piece that I'm presenting. It's not all good. I'm not glorifying criminal activity, because that's absolutely what is definitely included. It's criminal activity in every way, form, and fashion. You're not a gangster without criminal activity. The term gangster, even before gangs, comes from organized crime. Okay? The mob existed from out of Italy before any gangs, cuz. Back in the 40s, cuz. In the 30s, cuz. Wasn't no gangs in the 40s. But it was gangsters, though. You understand? Now, see, when it is that you say mobbing, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about organized crime. Now, for the most part, the real mobsters pretty much control all of the street gang activity. Why? Because it's having to do, I won't say all of it, as far as the criminal activity, that is, of course. But all the activity is not all criminal. And it's definitely not where it starts. Sometimes you get involved because, of course, you just want to get your hands dirty. You want to be able to feel like a badass, right? You want to, you have a lenience towards outlaw, lawlessness, like I was meaning or mentioning. But generally speaking, it's the love there, right? And it's always going to be a sense of love in different pockets, even where it's not the best. Like I said, some OGs, some big homies terrorize the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Some situations and settings for where these sets are intermingled. It's like a terror dome. It's literally, niggas call it the terror dome or the thunder dome. You feel me? But it's, you can have it to where it's a lot of bullying going on, and it's like you feel pressured not to have to look a certain way, and so you kind of get involved. But to be honest, when it comes down to it, in an overall sense, real G's, real hoodsters, because that's what a gangbanger is a mix between a gangster who is a criminal and a member of a fellowship, a brotherhood. So we talking about hoodsters, right? Real hoodsters, they'll respect you more for standing your ground on your own tip. You feel me? To where it's like, if that's not what you are really, intrigued with or allied with and willing as well as ready to certify your allegiance to, then they'll respect you for fighting against the intimidation, the peer pressure, so to speak. And it's interesting. Like, they're not gonna push your line unless you don't even made your mind up. And it's like, it's fucked up because there is a certain extent, there can be some bullying that goes on. But what's funny, like, a lot of times you become a friend with the bully. I wasn't necessarily ever bullied like that, because my niggas know that I'm not half-stepping with nothing I'm doing, but at the same time, I'm not all out there with anything either, just for display either. So it's like, when you look at the two aspects of it, which is the society of it, right? The very family of it, internet, basically, the network of it, not even just the network, but the connection of it. Because you're going to have a big homie that basically introduce you to the life every time. You always going to have whatever friends. You could be surrounded by all of the different people that's representing the same thing, but you're going to gravitate towards one or two main people, and that's going to be like the big homie or whatever. Not necessarily, unless your pops is down too, and then you just basically a progeny, which happens all the time, or your uncle or your cousin. For the most part, me, I didn't have no cousins in it. I didn't have, my mom's dated a guy that was like a actual head of the gang that I ended up becoming a part of. So, but you know what I mean? That was kind of like behind the scenes and under the radar. I mean, under the, you know what I'm saying? Behind the curtain type shit. It wasn't even like, I'm Mark's, you know what I'm saying, little homie or nothing. Because I already still lived there and I already still made my own friends. And I never really necessarily had a bigger homie. It was just that somebody that might have been with it longer than I was before I got started with it. It's very interesting because it's like I was at a point that I was kind of, what I was trying to even get to is like, your motive for even involving yourself. If it's like not respectable, if it's not something that you gonna hold down, that you gonna like, that's a part of you, regardless if your homies is there or not like you pushing a line or hella flagrant with it, you know what I'm saying, banging on everybody and confronting every thing that you encounter. But at the same time, you still have that code. It's the way you hold yourself. It's the way that you interact with people. And it's not always so menacingly threatening. It's not always so, relentlessly violent or negative. It has to do with not being no sucker, not being a poop butt. Basically a buster or a custer, like that nigga say. Like your boy, Crip Loke, right? Crip Mac. From out of Skid Row or whatever. But what's crazy is you gotta look at the dynamics of it, right? Because me, I have my own path, right? But I'm never gonna turn my back on my origin, right? It's never no need for that. You know what I mean? It takes a lot for you to just say, oh, well, I can't have nothing to do with that. You don't have to, and that's what the whole situation is. What I'm saying to you is a love there because you're encouraged so as to be who it is that you are for the most part. But if you don't know who you are, that's going to veer off and spiral off into different areas always with anything you involve yourself with. With gangs, it's just a little bit more drastic, a little bit more like crucial and and dangerous and vicious and venomous. You know what I mean? Like niggas, man, you know what I mean? In a blink of an eye like that, it could turn on you because of course you're fronting, right? But tomorrow, you feel me? You still there. You're gonna come back outside unless you just be coming to the hood, and you can always just leave and not come back anytime you want, and then that's when you really more so, you know what I mean? Like questionable. Feel me? Like, what is you coming over there for when you're not even from there? But that's cool too. It's magic to get into. That's what I'm saying. Even aside from crime, there's always that fellowship, right? And it's always just extremely, it's rugged type activities going on. It's raw, sort of just relentlessly dangerous and exciting shit happening. It's like, that's the whole part about that adrenaline. It's like, you gotta have a source for it because niggas,
And I'm all over the place talking about this. That's why sometimes I don't be liking to think about it, but speak on it. But I did want to mention about how I'm not trying to act like it's the shit to do. But you gotta have somewhere to not have to be compromised. Because if you try to get into this corporate world, right, you either a student or you a criminal, good. Right? There's no in between. There is an in between, but you're gonna have to be able to walk both lines. Otherwise, you're not gonna get nowhere. Is the whole part, good. Right? That's why they say they want you to have to establish yourself as this and that so that you can be trusted or that you are reliable enough to bang this line, whether it's wholesome or otherwise. But as I was mentioning, there's also a wholesomeness to lawlessness, to criminal activities. You know what I mean? Like all of America is a criminal hub. You feel me? All of the American establishment, America was established off of the stealing of land to begin with. Then it was built from slave labor, which is unjust. Okay? Now, all of the different statutes and constituents, as well as pillars of what is deemed the American society or institution, that is the corporation that is the United States of America, right? Because you got the country or rather you got America, then you have the United States of America. And before America, it was called the republics. It was just republics. There was no full name for America until the second constitution, like I'm telling you. If you ain't even understanding, it wasn't even the forefathers that wrote the initial constitution that made it possible for them to even establish themselves separately on land. Because by the time America was established as a separate, or rather the new world basically was established, or not even established, but just was founded by the first people to come there who didn't necessarily take land from nobody. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody took land like that. But when they got over there and was flourishing, then other niggas still came over there and was trying to, was basically gangster shit from niggas. So it's been gangsters, nigga, the whole time. You dig? It's nothing but crime going on. So it's like if you're not involved in one way, form, or fashion, basically you're being exploited, basically. Even if you do work a job somewhere, nigga, that corporation is run by the mob. The mob run the Vatican. The Vatican own all of the land on earth, or did just until recently, right? So that means whatever real estate, any business that's going on, it's got to have a deed for that land. That means that the Vatican is benefiting and profiting from whatever activities happening on the land just because it's anywhere on earth. And the mob is what control all of that. That's why the mob come from Italy, right? And the mob came to America firstly, but they mixed with other niggas though, cuz, and was getting it in with niggas, right? That for the most part, they had beef. The niggas did not match, but then until they did match, then that's when there was this new sort of other type of realm and underworld that was created. But it's still controlled, right? It's still kind of like managed by those that's got the most influence, because of course they're not going to turn over the control, because first of all, that would actually mean that it will be filtered out into something even more flourishing. For one. Why? Because we're not going to settle on advantages. We want liberation. That's how gangs started. Beginning was a revolution, right? We had to stand up against the police. The police was gangster in the hood, homie. So niggas band together. These were students. These were scholars that band together, nigga. But not all scholars is nerds or fucking weenies or wimps, cuz, is the part. Just because you got power, which is knowledge, don't mean you can't have strength, which is health. Just because you got power, which is knowledge, don't mean you can't have strength, which is health, right? And discipline as well as skill level. Yes? As far as exchange. So as to sharpen the iron that you're surrounded by. Because you're doing one thing or the next. You contributing or you're compromising. You contributing or you compromising. And it's kind of mixed up because it's like a lot of it is a compromise. You know, a lot of it is at risk for being, of course, corrupting. But that goes for everything is what I'm saying. And even more so when you don't have some sort of like respectable structure, because the structure that it was born out of only has so many elements of respectability to it, right? Especially you don't have your own land, right? We own somebody else's land defending drug markets at this point. That's not how it starts. But when you get into it, that's where it leads to. You're going to have to get your hands dirty to some extent because that's the whole reason why they allow it to operate. Otherwise, niggas will rise up and become a threat towards influence, you know what I'm saying, against over anybody else. But that's already happened though, because the culture is just that authentic. More so than not, right? At least that's how it should remain, because it began as something, as an alternative, right? Even if you go into school, they try to talk down to you at school. They try to make you feel like you need them, and otherwise you're gonna get swallowed up by the streets, or you're gonna be in jail, or you're gonna be homeless, or you're gonna, you know what I mean, have to hide and run from thugs and those that have access to you, because you don't know how to stand up for yourself without having whatever money to escape them. You understand? When it ain't about escaping nothing. It's about you making a choice as far as, it's about you making a decision as far as how far you're going to take the path that you choose. And then that goes for everything. You can start getting involved with whatever sorts of groups, and you just want to be around. You want to be down. You want to show that you're hard and all this other shit. When you shouldn't be down to be hard. You end up being down because you hard already, right? And that's just not nothing that can be changed. So it's like that's going to be something that you connect with. That those that also ain't no punk is going to fucking resonate with. Now this punk activity that ends up happening, right? That gets through the cracks because these niggas got folks that actually do bang. And so if you fuck with them, even though they not really about that life, they still trying to, you know what I mean? They still all in the mix even more so, because you gotta have somebody, you gotta be able to deflect whatever source of attention to, for one. So you gotta allow some shit to happen. I find it, like I said, it's either in you or it ain't, regardless. You know what I'm saying? All your cousins and uncles and your pops and your brothers and your mama might even, you know what I mean, be stone cold, just, you know what I mean, devoted straight to the bone, blood in, blood out. But that don't mean that that's something that you're gonna be able to identify yourself as. It just is kind of like in between. For the most part, you get, you know what I mean, it rubs off on you. Like with me, when I was coming up, I was around all type of wild shit in the streets. So it's something that I picked up. Don't get me wrong. Like every hoodster that I knew or that influenced me wasn't unblemishable, you know. But for the most part, I was around a lot of different things. Like I said, my mom was kind of like encircled in it. I seen my mama whooping on females. You And it's not, she wasn't necessarily from that gang, but she wasn't necessarily not from it either. But that's the whole point I'm saying. Like, you can bang to yourself. And anybody question you, it really depends on where your heart is at. Like, if you ever by yourself, it's gonna have to be a reason why anybody would ever bang on you. No matter where you at, it's just all in your spirit. You know what I mean? Like, if you are made your decision, you feel me, and your perspective is extended as opposed to so immediate, then those energies not even gonna necessarily contrast with you, because it's only so far that it's gonna take itself before it comes back to the other homies having something to say or something to do with it. And that's another beautiful part of it, but that's also the same part of it that can get you caught up to a certain extent. But that's all about if you're the type of nigga to get caught up or not, right? But then it's just like, it's cold because a lot of niggas don't lead a hood, right? Ain't no reason for them to lead a hood. They wouldn't even fit in nowhere else because they just that raw. And it's like, it's fucked up because it's like, that's our military, cuz. You know what I'm saying? And don't nobody, it's not for no money. I mean, these are hustlers, so you gonna get your bread regardless, and that's where it ends up going, because it's like, you on the street all day, not all day, but you always got something to answer to, right? Everything happening every day, so you can't lay your head without your pistol, first of all, and then your pillow. While you get up, you gotta sleep with one eye open, just in case, or whatever might end up popping off. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can kind of relax and lounge or whatever. You can chill to a certain extent, but you already know it gets real out of nowhere, even within your own family members. But you ain't finna just stay centralized in that one area, because that will make you more of a target, first of all. So you're gonna have to be active, is what the word is. You're gonna have to be involved. You're gonna have to be mobilized. You're gonna have to be mobile. You know what I mean? When it comes to on the block and in the streets of Los Angeles, which there's no other source of anything comparable to that. That's what you got in that Los Angeles. You got projects, and you got basically blocks where it's a little bit more spread out. Like, you go to some areas, it's like you are affiliated in one group or the next, or one gang or the next. You know, whether it is that you do join the police force, or you join the workforce, or you actually get initiated into a particular group that bang whatever towards the street. You know, but it's not about necessarily the street. It's about the choice that you make. It's about the path that you walk. So what I'm saying is, basically, my niggas know I'm about what I'm about, and not to question me on nothing, because I'm accepting. You know what I mean? I'm not judgmental. I'm not a critical person like that, to where I'm like, okay, whatever it is you're trying to do, I don't need to even know all of that. But if however it can involve me, it's going to be in a developmental sort of, from a developmental angle, to where it's going to be better the more time we spend in doing it. Even if it is crime, even if it is something that'll get, you know what I'm saying, dangerous. You know what I mean? So we're going to do it next to the next level every time we get involved with it. Otherwise, we spinning a circle, we spinning our wheels, and that's never necessary, right? Because you got to always be able to have a drop on your enemies, quote unquote enemies. You always got to have, you know what I mean, an unpredictable angle that you coming from, and always got to have a backup route. You know, you got to check your alleys everywhere you at. Me, shit, nigga, I never take the same route twice, homie. I never take the same route twice, and but by then, that's helped me to be able to see exactly what route I have taken, and exactly the layout of the very route that I'm taking. I ain't got to go there but one time. I can be in a new place, in a new country, just because of how I walk through the streets. If you can't walk through the streets with your head high, nigga, then you're not ready for the world, right? And you're going to be taken advantage of either way. But at the same time, now you're going to know yourself less. If it was to be to where it's okay, you confronted your environment. It's not even about that. Like, if you're scared, you're scared. But fear is not an element. You know? It shouldn't be. And that's what's the one thing that does get weeded out and filtered out is the fear. Because eventually you're going to outgrow it. You know? Even if the more scared you are, the more shit you're going to get into. Right? But then when it is that you already have conquered your fear and you establish yourself as with the shit, then you have like different bigger sort of drama. You know what I mean? Because niggas' emotions be involved, niggas be, you know what I mean? Niggas be really trapped in the life because of a lot of different elements. So it's like you can't necessarily even really be centralized anywhere at all. You always gotta be on the go and able to be other places, right? And not even so known for your connection to any particular area unless it's got that air of respect there, right? Because it's only gonna be only so many particular sorts of niggas involved with certain shit. Otherwise, they not welcome there, okay? You know what I'm saying? You're not even gonna be able to, you're not even gonna be able to be involved. You're not gonna be able to get to thrash like that. You're not gonna really be able to mix like that when the realer shit start happening with those that are, like I said, more acquainted. Because of course they brought a respectable sense of honorable nigga exchange to it. You know, they wasn't looking out just for themselves. You gotta always have yourself in check, firstly, but what's the next step after that? It's teaching those, that's, you know, it's assisting those that's assisting you. Because you always gonna have assistance or opposition. No matter what, you can't get around it. No matter how self-sufficient you are, you're gonna find assistance. You're gonna find appreciation as well as support and contribution to your contribution. So that just grows in an organic direction. And you just gotta, and that's that part of, you know, that honorable exchange. Or not, you know, nobody perfect, but at the same time, you're being built. And so, yeah, it's already wicked though. It starts off wicked because that's where we are in this life. It began as a response to intimidation and terrorism. Right now, not everybody that ended up getting involved had the same resolve or outlook. However, it kind of spiraled out of hand to a certain extent because of the allure of the very activity in itself, you know, as well as the reach of it, the applicability of it, the relevance of all that was happening and does end up happening, right? This is where it's happening. This is where niggas is expressing, right? This is where this is the most freest area, right? And the police don't even come over here, right? But if you can't handle yourself over here, you might not leave from over here. Especially if it is not that you stay over here. And even if you stay over here, you might end up having to get from up out of the way by the time it get really popping in certain little corners and pockets of the hood. You know? But then the niggas is left over there on their own. And so it's like, you know, they can get really chewed up and ate up by the darkness there. But like I said, they growing too within that aspect or within that construct. It began as a response, and even if it is that you on the block, right, you gonna live somewhere. It's either gonna be the suburbs or it's gonna be the slums, right? And if you don't have already enough money, that means that you gotta try to put yourself in a position to advance it, to upgrade to a more liberating situation. to where you're not obligated to subject yourself to whatever other control system or established program or formula. Right? For the most part, like I told you, even when it comes to corporate businesses, the mob was around before any corporation. All corporations is the mob, nigga. The mob was around before any corporations, cuz. The mob is the corporations, cuz. This is the facts. So, now how deep did that go? Yeah, man, that's a whole brotherhood in secrecy. Like, it's like you're born into that. That come down to your genetics, girl. Okay? Just like the law system with the Jews. Okay? So you got the business part, then you got the law part. So then when you have business law at, you have now Jewish mobsters. Okay? Now as far as a hustler, there's no way that he can even really touch that life and really live through it. You know? Unless there's that element of honor and respect there, and even then, you only gonna satisfy so many. You only gonna please so many that's really born that way. Got that blood in their veins. That Italian blood in their veins. Got that Jewish blood in their veins. Now, if you have a family with an Italian and a family with a Jewish person, and then you have some gangbanging ass hustler sons, that'll be different. But even then, they're gonna have to be able to blend in both worlds, is what I'm telling you. Buddy boss. You know what I mean? You try to go to school, right? And they want to downplay you. They want to act like you feel me? That you's a weenie or whatever, if it is that you want to read or whatever. They're like, and then these are not just the students. Sometimes the teachers want to undermine your edge. And don't get me wrong, I had great teachers that actually understood the challenges. And not necessarily so much of the challenge, just the dynamics. You know, the sides of it, to where it's like, for the most part, niggas are illiterate, cuz, to a certain extent. Not all my niggas is illiterate, but the ones that's can always just go do whatever else is generally just gonna do whatever else, because first of all this education that we're receiving is a construct in itself, so as to demean your majesty, right? Your potential to erect as well as foundate an individual empire, nigga, outside of whatever mob, outside of whatever law. But it's gonna take you being able to operate in these worlds enough as an individual, as an individualized entity, contrasting these things. That means that you're gonna at least have to be aware of, be informed about them. You're not gonna have to necessarily be informed, but it's gonna take you, of course, establishing your own structure, basically. You know? And shit, man, that's gonna take organization. That's gonna take cooperation. You know, and that's gonna lead to the building of understanding between, even if it's between the establishment. And that understanding is gonna lead into a now exchange of principles, basically, and codes. Right? And codes take what is called codifying, through whatever language it end up having to be, even if it's sign language, even if it's unspoken silent, it's going to be a structure sort of systemized, you know what I mean, in and out to it. And that's kind of, it just naturally lead to And unfortunately, you're gonna, eventually one of somebody, even if it is your sons or your cousins or somebody that's not necessarily so openly affiliated with you, that can come back and speak with you in private to learn the conversation, learn the, learn the language. That shit is happening in the outside world. In order for you to be able to move comfortably, for you to be able to move effectively towards building something, right? We have this idea where, we can be all right for ourselves, but that's only going to last for so long because there's other people on Earth, and nobody is staying in just one place. And even if they are, that place is not always going to be able to be where it's at. So it'd be wise to be able to have a place is. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not at that place, then that means that somebody else should be at that place. It just would make most sense. And now whoever that's going to be, as opposed to when it is that you would rather be at that place, being that it is that you've established it, you can't be there while they're there. That means by the time you come in there, they're going to have to be moving somewhere else. That should be happening anyway, to where you can be alone wherever it is that you would be, but not have to be left. Any other place that you can go to be alone have to be left in the open. Is the best part, is the way to best approach it. And that's going to take respect and honor. That's going to take a code of established structured codifying of points of interest, points of reference, and points of progression. Yeah, so it's interesting and it's intricate because it's already an established sort of, industry or whatever. It's established sort of like world system or world market, basically. It's already a network. And if they catch wind and they, and then it's just, the cover's blown, the cat's out of the bag. So that's why it's gotta be like to where it's everywhere at once. And areas of it that no one else can get to, where the most crucial bubbling can take place. And for the most part, that's not necessarily happening in these other established world networks. Why? Because it's not raw enough. You know what I mean? It's just not ill enough. It's not natural enough and organic enough, right? And niggas are compromising. They had to do it because that's the way that's in their blood, so they gotta do it. You know what I mean? You can't even do it unless it's in your blood to begin with. So that's another hole. Generally speaking, that don't work itself out. That's more of a pressure on the structure than it is a support. But in ways it supports the immunity of, and also the better management to a certain extent, but it's just a little more drabber than, of course, everybody getting it how they live, everybody contributing something individual as well as authentically personal. You know what I mean? And that be the situation. So that's one thing that is a plus, but that only lasts for so long too before it becomes whatever else. So everything is always fluctuating. So that's what I mean, like, that's how you can have it to where, okay, it's like you can be involved, and that's our situation why they'll let you get involved to a certain extent. Just to kind of like flavor these different areas where it's like niggas are losing interest or losing, allegiance, right? Because it's just, it's like it's the same thing is going on within the same people. When it's like, it's not supposed to be like that. That right there is unnatural. It's not about blood. It is because we all come from the same place, same blood to begin with, to a certain extent. I mean, at least enough towards the beginning, towards the establishment, even if it was different species of the same human race, which that's the case, is basically what I'm saying is, the human race don't have the same species. I mean, it's the same species. To be honest, they say it's different species. That the African is a whole nother species of human. Right? That's what they say. Right? When you go into it, right? Even anthropology will tell you this. Right? There's something that there's There's a science called eugenics, or what is called a system called eugenics, where different genes of melanated beings from one range to another are classified into different basic species. It's called eugenics. Now this is the core and the crux of what is called anthropology, which is different from biology. This biology is the ology of bio, meaning life and living. So that should include all living beings, but anthropology starts to go into the different traits of humans, for whatever reason. It's kind of like how you got Egyptology, but you have no other countryology. You know what I mean? There's no other country with an ology. You ain't got Americanology, you ain't got Frenchology, right? You ain't got Russianology. So what is that saying? That's saying that it was everything happening there where everyone was meeting at. Okay, so aside from that, that came from somewhere though. Alright, that was basically the meeting point. But it was a lot of different species, or rather, human traiting that was happening that led up into that meeting point. You see what I'm talking about? Whatever sorts of segregations and differences and adaptations, all these other things, all was happening separately, but at the same time in relation to each other, because people were still intermingling. There was never not no intermingling. Even the Vikings back in the day was voyaging the world on ships, nigga. You think there wasn't no people when they was coming to the lands they was coming to? What you think was happening? It was exchanges. You know what I'm saying? This is all after the dynasties, though, supposedly, but there was Vikings that was exploring the world before the dynasties, right? Now, these Vikings, they say, was the original voyagers of the world. It's really interesting how it actually happens and how it ended up. What was the point I was saying about that? I'm talking about brotherhoods and how you can have brothers that's not your blood, and the difference between that, and the differences and the significances. Okay, because see, that's the two sides of it, right? Cain killed Abel, nigga. Seth killed Asar, nigga. You understand? Tyrone killed Raheem. That was from different gangs. Sometimes Lorenzo killed Jimmy or Johnny, and they be from the same gang, right? Sometimes two brothers will join two different gangs. You know what I'm saying? So what's the difference? That's the whole point, what I'm saying. Is you following me? About as far as that's the whole point of what I'm saying? It's gonna come down to a different code than just having to be up around somebody, girl. And Cain couldn't have killed Abel if it wasn't his brother. I mean, he could have. They might have had whatever differences, but it wouldn't have been the same. It's the whole thing. It's kind of like the moral of that story, as well as the moral of Seth and Asar. Now, you look at Seth. Now, I'm gonna let you know something right now. Seth represents not only anger and confusion. Seth represents foreigners, cuz this nigga Seth was literally the symbolization of foreigners. Okay, now look, bro, that's saying a lot, my nigga. That's saying a lot. I'm not racist, but anybody focused on race at all, you got a complex about they self, right? Which your brother, you supposed to be your brother's keeper, because we all of the same life, regardless of what species, blood type, cultural connections. We all have the same assignment here, my nigga. That is to get it how we live and stay true to yourself and expand on your path,